With me, I'm glad to say, is a man, I think that was a wee jump there, we'll take it again from the top. With me, I'm glad to say, is a man I'm very glad to welcome into the studio because he's involved in Men's Health, the Men's Health Forum down in the Republic of Ireland, and the HSE Men's Health Concern part of that organisation. He's also a comedian. And when you're thinking about men's health, sometimes it can be a joke because men really don't care an awful lot. They don't seem to.
Well, that has changed now. When I started,
Really?
Yeah, when I started first, for example, the life expectancy for Irish men was 73 years, right? That was in 2002. And now the life expectancy for Irish men is 78 years.
Wow.
Now, I'm not taking all the credit.
I don't mind giving it to you. It's a good story. It's great.
I take some of it.
Some of it, indeed.
But obviously, men are doing something right in terms of they're starting to look after their health a bit more because, I mean, the very fact that they're living longer means they're doing something right.
Yeah.
But there still are huge health concerns.
What is it that's coming to nuke us as men? What's taking us out?
Well, would you believe there are 4 main causes of death for men. The first one is still cardiovascular disease, so that's problems with the heart, right? And strokes and so on. The second one is cancers, so about a quarter of men actually die from cancers. The third one is respiratory diseases, so
smoking.
Smoking. A lot of men die from emphysema and things like that. And the fourth one, which is a big concern, is what we call injuries and poisoning. So that would be deaths by suicide and also road traffic accidents, workplace accidents, and so on. So they're the 4 main causes of death.
So we're beginning to take note. We're sitting up.
We're beginning to sit up and take note, And now there is some good news. For example, the number of road deaths are down, right? The latest figures show that the number of men who die by suicide has come down as well. You know, and I think the big success over the last number of years is cardiovascular problems. Like a lot less men are dying from heart attacks now than say maybe 10, 15 years ago. So there's huge success in that area.
But it's a bit hard to look at them all out on the roads in their lycra. But I suppose we have to sort of give it some credit.
High-vis jackets.
It's a bit hard to run with your clothes flapping around you in the old-fashioned ways of Roger Bannister and the like. But exercise is there at the heart of it.
And for example, one of the big concerns we had years ago was to try and get men to exercise because, especially men in middle years, we found that once they stopped playing football, they started watching football. They didn't do anything to kind of step down for exercise. So now we say since the whole bike craze, more and more men are out cycling in the evenings, especially in the summertime. So men are beginning to get the message by taking up more physical activity.
Why did you get involved in this? What's the motivation for you?
Well, it's my job. I mean,
I know, but what brought you to it? You could have chosen a million jobs.
That's true. Yeah, it was at the time back in 2002. I was working in health promotion. And I was supervising a drugs outreach service at the time, and this vacancy came up, and I was just saying to myself, I think I'd like to be focused a bit more on training and education and getting the message out there around health. And that kind of drew me in, and since then I've just made it my own.
Did you have ever any scares, so to speak, yourself along the journey?
No, luckily enough now, touch wood as they say.
Yeah, and what age are you now?
I'm 54.
Oh, you're only a child. I'm 70, so I can
70,
call you that with a great... This lad who's running the desk over there, he's 20, and I said to him this morning, I'm 3 times your age plus 10, and that's a sobering enough thought, when you get going. But I have actually found the older I get, I'm beginning to feel kind of stiffness in the bones and the joints, that kind of thing comes in when I see that. And also the good fortune of detecting early my prostate cancer. It was great to do that, and that was only done by good watching.
Right.
Very important to do that.
So do you want to tell me about that?
Well, it's simple enough, straightforward story. I had no symptoms, but I had read the magazine. You can actually see this as a comment on it as a kind of a case study, if you like. So here I am, no symptoms. I'm 68 years of age. I get an ordinary blood test done, and it shows up something called in the PSA. And it's a 12, and the doctor says, come and see me. I said, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, who's the top man I can go to in Northern Ireland? And he gave me the name, PJ Keane at the hospital in Belfast. Went to PJ for a consultation, not dear, was able to be done, didn't break the bank. And he said, well, he said, it's all right. He said, it's just your age, don't worry. I said, but it might not just be my age, there could be something else in there. I said, I want a biopsy. And he said, well, you know, I don't, you know, blah, blah. I said, PJ, what would you do if it were you?
Good question.
He said, I'd probably do what you're doing. Okay, we'll give you the biopsy. And I got the biopsy on the National Health Scheme, got it within 6 weeks.
Very good.
The biopsy showed out of 13 cores they'd take, it was the funniest experience of my life, actually, believe it or not, getting the biopsy, because you're there alone with your ass in the air, waiting to be biopsied, so to speak, and you're surrounded by what seemed to me on the day to be 4 of the most beautiful women I was ever in the middle of in my life. And here, the doctor and the 3 nurses, and I thought they're coming to hold me down or whatever. But no, it wasn't a particularly onerous experience. It was done, it was marginally discomfortable, uncomfortable. And anyway, they discovered out of 13 cores, there were 3 cores that showed elements of prostate cancer, quarter millimeter length of thing, and they were number 6 on a Gillison scale, they called it, which wasn't apparently that serious. So no treatment was necessary whatsoever, other than constant monitoring. And I, through friends, got to know of something called pumpkin seed oil. Watch my lips. Pumpkin seed oil. And the pumpkin seed oil, a holistic recipe for this. Experimentation was done in Japan on it, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I take 5 tablespoons of pumpkin seed oil for my breakfast every morning, plus an orange. That's my total breakfast, has been for the last 3 years. So it's gone down from 12 down to a constant 7. And every 4 months I get, every quarter, which is what, every 3 months, blood test done, so it's 7, 7, 7. So there's no more antigens been pumped out into the bloodstream. It's there as a steady factor. And had I not been careful, had I not been assiduous, I would have been gone. You know, this thing would have been growing quietly, you know, and that would have been the end of it. But now the second biopsy has shown the prostate to be normal.
That's fantastic.
Thanks be to God.
That's
you know,
a good story.
It's a good story, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if
And
people
it's
out there,
interesting how you're saying about the Japanese men, and it's interesting how you got some of the remedies from
the
Japan.
science from it. Yeah,
the Japanese men are the longest living men in the world.
yeah.
And it's mainly because of their diet. And it's probably this oil you're talking about, but it's also fish oil. They eat a lot of fish, which is very good for the heart in particular.
My rationale, there's a bit of a Buddhist in me maybe. I like to be ascetic as much as I can be, to cut back, cut away. Not to, somebody asked me, what do I treasure most in the world? And I said, nothing, except the ability not to treasure anything. Because that'll screw your mind. Because if you treasure things, people can come and take your treasure and leave you broken. So I don't treasure anything in that sense. And I've got to the stage of realizing, and this feeds into where you're coming from, is the need to eat properly. Because on my body now, I don't need plate of meat and vegetables and a sweet and a starter. What nonsense. Now my breakfast, as I say, is an orange chopped, the 5 tablespoonfuls of the stuff, nothing else in the morning. Now, the doctor people tell me I'm wrong in this, but I do not feel the need to eat anymore until 6 o'clock in the evening. Don't feel that need. My body has been accustomed to it. It's growing into that. So at 6 o'clock in the evening, I'll have a dinner that's no bigger than the size of my fist. And that's me. And I feel all the better for it. Is that the kind of thing men should be looking at, if certainly not copying me, but talking to their own nutritionalists and finding it the best way forward?
Well, like the advice we give men in terms of healthy eating is the food pyramid, you know. So for example, 6 servings from the bottom shelf, which would be cereals, buds, pasta, rice, the carbohydrates, right?
That's all okay,
5 fruit and vegetables a day, 3 servings of meat, eggs or fish, right? And 2 servings of yogurts or milk and so on. And you know, that top shelf, very, very small amounts of, for example, you know, biscuits, like butter, all those anything with saturated fat, with animal fat, you know, that's the message. So, but basically, it's calories in versus calories out. People just tend to forget that, you know. So obviously, you're taking enough calories in for the calories you need. So you're absolutely right. You kind of work out what you need in terms of calories in, calories out. And I should go with that, because it's a big concern now, and this is going to be the biggest concern for men's health going into the future, in that between obesity and overweight, there's 2/3 of men are either overweight or obese.
Not good.
And that's not good, because that's going to have health issues down, especially with things like diabetes and heart problems down the road. So
you see, you see in situations where men are eating wrongly or not exercising, the cholesterol starts to show as a problem in the cardiovascular area of things. Now, again, let me give you me as the guinea pig. My cholesterol was always between 4.5 and 5, stood at that. Not the worst in the world, but it could be better. And I was always taking Benecol. I'm not product placing here, but the doctor recommended Benecol. You take a little thing this much and you take it every day. Now I did it, I took it every day, and one day I had a sort of a witch in here. She was a health witch. It was somebody who lived in a cave in the mountains somewhere. You know that, sir. Somebody said, this is what you throw it away, all you eat is berries, don't do anything else, blah, blah, blah. So I stopped for 3 months taking the Benecol. And in the first blood test I had after the Benecol cessation, I found that my PSA, my cholesterol had gone from 5 to 7.
Oh, so it was working.
Wow. Something was working. So the doctor said to me, Ron, we need to look at statins. We'll look at that. I said, no. Let's try this. Let me back on the Benecol. Let me more assiduously address the business of eating properly, my good food regime. And if it's still up there, then we'll look at statins. But natural ways first, perhaps.
But that's an interesting one, because there's a website called bandolier.com. And it's the public health messages from all over Europe. And one of the things they actually say has been proven is that those Benecol type drinks actually do work.
They do?
Yeah, they do work.
It seems to be the case with me.
But in terms of male obesity, I remember hearing this joke about a guy goes to the doctor and he says to the doctor, but see, doctor, the problem with me is that obesity runs in my family. And the doctor says, no, the problem with you is that no one runs in your family. So after that, I think I hope he got more exercise and got the weight down.
Which takes me to the story, you're a comedian, a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, just as a hobby, part-time.
But how does a man develop a hobby as a stand-up comedian? Because you're in danger of getting cabbage thrown at you if it doesn't go right.
Well, I'll tell you how it happened. It actually happened through Men's Health, because I found when I was working with groups of men and, trying to do PowerPoint and do some kind of training with men. One thing I found that works with men is humour. Humour. And like, for example, Dr. Ian Banks, and I think he's going to be on this series later on, he was one of the first ones to bring humour into messages around men's health. And I followed his lead on that. And it absolutely works, because as somebody said, when they're laughing, they're listening. So if you can open their mouths for laughter, you can slip in some food for thought. And that's the way I can approach it.
I love it.
So I started putting in some humour slides in between the serious message slides and so on. And then when the trainees or the participants were laughing, I was saying, I'm getting a buzz from this. So I'd like to pursue this humour side. And that's why I just decided to do the
okay, you tell me a joke and I'll tell you a joke.
Well, if you tell me your one, I want to match your one in terms of the strawberry.
The strawberry. I'll tell them the strawberry one.
Right, okay.
This is for men's health. This is the strawberry joke. When you go to be examined for the prostate cancer, as I did, you get a biopsy. That's what it's called. It's a biopsy. And you go in full of trepidation, absolutely naked, but for a gown which is open along the back. And that gives you the clue what's going to happen next. And I'm going in there on my tiptoes. I'm surrounded by 4 of the most beautiful women I've ever been surrounded by. 3 lovely nurses and a doctor. And I'm asked to get up on the table and put my ass in the air. And there I am. Oh, what's going to happen next? Now up there I am. And she says, now Rowan, everything, you just look at me. I said, which? Oh! And they'd inserted this thing in my ass. And then I suddenly got to thinking, they might think I'm a bad patient. And I said, oh no, it was all right. It was okay. It was not actually. No, I thought, maybe they'll think I'm disposed to another type of sexuality. I said, well, no, it was a bit difficult. And then the only way to assuage the embarrassment was to tell a joke. And somewhere I had heard along the line, Doctor, did you hear did you hear about the man who had a strawberry, and bums in the air at this stage, the biopsy's in the middle of being done. Did you hear about the man who's got a strawberry sticking out of his bum? And the doctor says, no, what about him? He had a strawberry. He says, I know that, don't worry. A strawberry in the bum, I have cream for it. Now, over to you, sir.
Yeah, the one I heard is actually something similar. It's about a guy who had a leaf coming out of his backside, and he goes to the doctor a lettuce leaf, right?
Ah.
And he goes to the doctor, and he was all concerned. And the doctor examines him, and he says to the doctor, "Is it serious?" "Oh, it is," he says. "It's the tip of the iceberg." So there you go. That's the one.
That's the one.
Put me in memory of it.
We push it out a bit further. We have a new. Again, men's health, and we're talking men's health. This is the program for real men, without a doubt. You can use this one. It's the new. If you're talking about men with erectile dysfunction, is this part of your bailiwick as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Erectile dysfunction. That's the polite name for it. There's a medical centre out in South Armagh. They have concocted a natural recipe to deal with men's health, and they decided that they would have this, and they had to get a name for it, and they couldn't figure out the medical names in the word Viagra. Of course, Viagra meaning from the ancient Irish and the Roman via. In Rome, the Via Dolorosa, the road of sorrow, via, and gra, something nice. So Viagra is the road to niceness. Viagra, you see. So they were trying to figure this out in the country, and they thought, I know a good one. It needs to be medically sounding. It needs to look good. So they decided to call it macoxafloppin. I said it quickly enough to get away with it, I think.
Hopefully, yeah.
So when they come to... you see, the man believes inside his head that he's still 20. But his body, in all sorts of ways, be it from the hips, be it from the joints and whatever else, the body tells you you're going older and stiffer, with the exception of important area. And that's the dysfunction, erectile dysfunction.
That's it,
So
and
what about that? Why do men talk about that?
Well, it's one of the embarrassing things that men find to talk about. And for example, the research shows that only 10% of men who have problems with the erections actually go to a doctor and seek help.
They wouldn't go.
So they just don't go. It's kind of still a taboo for a lot of men, And but it's definitely something that men should feel free to go to the doctor and talk about, because something like 40% of men over the age of 40 suffer from it from time to time. So it's nothing to be embarrassed about. A lot of men out there are suffering from it, and it's okay to go to a doctor. The doctor will have heard it all before. So that's the message we want to get out to men, that you're not alone. It's definitely one that can, and there's great help out there now, as you were hinting at there earlier. But
I think I also I've in conversations with people and with exploring all of these things, a lot of it is in the mind. It is a mental situation rather than a physical thing. Well,
it can be caused by a number of reasons. There's a link between cigarette smoking, would you believe, and erectile dysfunction. There's also a link between depression and erectile dysfunction. But there's also, it can be the early signs of problems with your heart.
Oh.
And the reason why is because...
Can't pump the blood.
Yeah, so because the veins on the penis are actually so narrow, it's a good indication. If there's a problem getting the blood to flow in there, it could be an indication or a warning sign that the heart could be finding it hard to pump blood around.
Yeah, and that takes us to the wisdom of regular checkups. Make a friend of your GP.
Absolutely.
What is the way in the Republic? Do people have to pay when they go to a GP?
They do, yeah.
What would it cost a man to go and get his blood pressure done, his blood checked for all the things we need to check the blood for? What sort of money would that cost a man?
I mean, just for a cardiovascular checkup, it would be very much around 50, 60 euro.
That's not...
It's not huge money.
It's not, and it's worth doing to get all of that checked.
And even to put your own mind at ease, like we would recommend men over 50 to get it done, get a heart check every 2 years.
Every 2 years, yeah.
And just keep in touch with your GP, because the research all shows that men are very reluctant to go to the doctor, and we need to get men to change that, because exactly your example earlier, because you went, you were able to find out that this was wrong, and you were able to correct it.
Correct it, and indeed. Now it seems to be all right. Keep going.
Yeah.
So in your day-to-day work, Finian, I beg your pardon, please forgive me. That's the other thing, my mind. How do I help my mind? I keep forgetting. I want an answer now, please.
I mean, there are certain foods that are actually good for the mind. For example, blueberries are good for the mind.
I take really?
Whole grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole grain. And I mean, if you could include those in your diet, It would help. It would help your mind be more active for longer. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah.
People say that you should take up another language or this, that, or the other, but I would find that sore at this stage of my life.
I don't know what comedian came out with this one. He says there are three signs that you're getting older. The first is you're losing your memory.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other two.
The three old boys. You'd be better at thinking of one here. I'm giving you another one. Three old boys sitting on a park bench. One is 60, the other is 80, and the other's 107.
Right.
And the beautiful woman walks past. And she's an absolutely delectable specimen of femininity. Mm-hmm. She is shimmering luminosity of the feminine form. And the fellow at 60 says, "Oh," he says, "look at your woman. She's nice. I'd love to give her a kiss on the cheek." And the other boy at whatever age, 87 or 90, he's saying, as the other one walks past, "Whoa, look at that one. She's even better. I'd love to give her a good hug." And the boys, aye, and they're all going, "That'll be great. And the 107-year-old says, as the other one walks past, this real stunner, "Oh," he says, "look at that." He says, I'd love to, what was that other thing we used to do with them?"
So long ago for him, isn't it?
So long ago. Do you enjoy your work?
I do. There was a story there. Remember there last year, was it the oldest man in the world? He was 116. He died, right?
Yes.
And this is the difference between men's health and women's health. He was 116 and he died, and his mother made the funeral arrangements.
It was in his genes. He was okay.
Yeah, but he was Japanese as well.
Oh, Japanese,
as I was saying earlier.
But I had this feeling, I had this thought, I think I shared it with you earlier. Inside me, I feel that I have another 70 years in me.
Oh, yeah.
I do not feel, in any sense, bad. Ryan is under one instruction. If I drop dead from a heart attack as we're talking, he has to keep filming. He doesn't stop.
But does he not give you CPR or something? No.
Have you looked at him?
Huh?
Would you want him to do that to you? No, but I mean, you might want to phone, get help, but I want the camera to keep running.
You want to keep the camera.
It's very, very important to do that.
It's a bit like it's the way Tommy Cooper died, wasn't it?
The way Tommy Cooper,
keep the camera rolling.
Keep her rolling.
Not like that, Julia.
But the thing about it, I confidently, inside myself, feel, not 70, I feel no different than I felt when I was 30.
Yeah.
Inside my brain, I'm different. I'm slower, Now, I can't run any longer. I have to walk because I've damaged my tendons and my musculature over the years. So I walk more than anything. Yeah. I go to my physiotherapist this afternoon to get my back done again. But as long as you're doing that, that's important.
Yeah, and keeping active.
And I thought with confidence I would certainly live to be 120. And I was listening to the World Service, which I recommend to anyone who wants to be kept awake all night long, listening to a program, and there was a Japanese man on again, the oldest man in the world, and he was 120.
Oh, right.
So suddenly I realized maybe I'm not going to live to be 120. I'll not be setting that particular record, So by way of advice, say 5 advice points.
Well, the first thing,
to men.
the first thing you were actually saying, and you've hit the nail on the head. It's recommended that we all get moderate exercise, moderate physical activity for 5 days a week for half an hour. Right, so you're right. I mean, if you can walk for half an hour, and it doesn't all have to be at the same time. It can be like 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. Once it adds up to a half an hour, 5 days a week. And that's very good for keeping your heart healthy, right? The other advice is, eat your food from the food pyramid, so eat a variety of food using the food pyramid. So
and leave the rubbish.
Avoid that top shelf. Avoid all that cakes and sweets and so on. And also, even going for a walk is very good for your mental health as well.
Yes,
because sometimes if you have a problem, you go for a walk for half an hour, you come back, the problem is lifted, or you come up with the solution.
I did that 2 years ago. I went into the hills. I had a problem that I thought was insurmountable. And I was there walking under a blue sky, that inverted bowl they call the sky, where under cooped we live and die. There it was, that dome of blue, looking down at the ocean below me. And the birds, the peregrine falcon was there, or the red kite was there on the horizon, hovering, blah, 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 blah. And when I came off the mountain, I was okay.
Yeah.
Totally, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem.
amazing, yeah.
The other lesson that I often take when I travel in Africa and the northern bushland of Nigeria, of all places, I see great examples from the people there. Those people never worry.
Right.
Those people don't know what depression is. Those people don't know what suicide is. And yet there are people who have nothing other than the vegetables they grow.
Yeah.
They eat what they grow and take the surplus to market on the Saturday. We can learn from that.
Oh, absolutely.
Of what we want out of life, our expectation of life. If you can get rid of the Joneses, then things become good.
Yeah. Another piece of advice would be to, if you have something worrying you, to talk to somebody you trust.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure that you share your problems, because a problem shared is a problem halved. And also, the last piece of advice is to get enough sleep. You know, like a lot of people a lot of men in particular, we actually don't get enough sleep. We need about 7-8 hours a night.
Yeah.
Try and get that, and because there's a chance for your body to recharge.
Oh, yeah.
Start afresh.
I find now that since I took on this work a year ago, I've ring-fenced 2 years for this, to be here doing this.
Yeah.
And it means for my mental contentment with the program, I'm out of bed at 3:45 every morning.
Right.
I'm up, I spend 1 hour showering, dressing, making sure everything's right within my head, taking my breakfast that I spoke about. I'm in here at 5.
Right.
I write the news at 5 until 6, and then I go for a coffee. And I walk a little bit, and then I come back in.
You write the news?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought the news came in from abroad.
Oh, what happens is I pull the news. I pull the news in from half a dozen sources.
Oh, very good.
And
right.
then because of issues of getting it right, I rewrite it to keep it the way it should be in our terms. But the point I'm making is that I then would be in bed very, very often by 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're obviously getting your night's sleep.
I'm getting the best sleep ever I got in my life.
And you're missing the World Cup and everything. Fantastic.
I know, it was great. Did you ever? God almighty. But it was, I have to say, I enjoyed the final.
Yeah, the final was
You would have
good,
watched the final.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what does life now hold for you in your job? What is the Men's Health Forum? And how is that
Men's Health
different
Forum,
from the HSE?
Yeah, the Men's Health Forum, it's an all-Ireland group, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a number of interested individuals in men's health, or people who work in the area of men's health. We come together and we've set up our own company.
Yeah.
And our main flagship event every year is Men's Health Week. Now that happened back in June. It's usually the second week in June, finishing up on Father's Day. And we have a different theme every year. We work a lot around that. And Colin Fowler, he's Director of Operations. He's actually based in Belfast, but he covers the whole of the country. The whole island, yeah. And but Men's Health Week, like this year, our theme was challenges and choices. Like, there are challenges for men's health, there are choices we can make, but there are also celebrations. There are things we are doing right. We need to celebrate those as well. So that was our theme this year, and we brought out a little mini manual. I think there's copies of it available online from your website and so on.
Yeah.
And so then other pieces of work we're involved in a project to tackle young men and suicide. We were also involved in the report around young men and suicide, which was
done by government.
Which is done by government, yeah. So we were kind of helping them there, and then there are other general media events that we actually attend as well. So, but it's a great group in terms of it's such a supportive network for all of us who work in men's health. We're all kind of helping each other out, and we're all aware of each other's work. Yeah. And it's fantastic from that point of view, yeah. It's great.
I'd say it's a long time since you smoked a cigarette, if you ever smoked a cigarette.
I did smoke, but it's about 20 years. Yeah.
I thought so. You can see it in your appearance, your deportment. You can see it there. Yeah. A cigarette has never, ever in my life passed my lips.
Good man, yeah.
Now, my family smoked. My siblings all smoked, you know.
Yeah.
But having said that, I would have had more than a passing interest in a good red wine.
Yeah.
But even that, I've come to realize, in my new sort of end-of-life period, so to speak, racing to the end of the timeline, I even find now if I take red wine, it gives you a slight, and good wine, a slight decrease in your sharpness the next day.
Oh,
and I don't like that.
Yeah, possibly,
I don't like that.
Yeah.
So I've stopped red wine.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to be able to stop.
Yeah.
Just to stop. So I've done that, you know.
Yeah.
Right, how do people, if they Google Men's Health Forum,
Google Men's Health Forum, mhfi.org, you will find
mhfi.org.
yeah, and
You'll get these guys.
It's all there, and now every link to some very good men's health websites all over the world are actually linked on there as well.
And the secret is wise up.
Wise up, yeah.
You know, keep an eye.
One of the best quotes I ever heard about smoking was from Dave Allen. Do you remember?
I do, the one finger.
Yeah, the one finger, right?
Yeah.
And he gave up smoking, and of course his fans were saying, "Oh, how could you let us down?
Oh, yeah.
It was so much part of your image." And he says, "As simple as this, I got fed up actually paying people to kill me."
Aye. That's exactly what was right. He's right.
That was a very good. It was a very good approach.
Yeah. Finian, Murray.
Rowan, thank you.
God bless you. You're a good man. Thank you very, very much indeed.
And thanks for the chance to.
Not at all. You're welcome.
Okay.